Well, this month, if you've been with us previously, and if not, you'll learn today, that we are going through and discovering the keys to the kingdom. And we're not only discovering them, we're going to be using them. Big difference in life, you know. It's not what you know, but what you do. Okay. We learned last week about the power of commitment. And unless one is committed, they are not going to take those definite steps that need to progress in order to move forward in life, because what will happen is we're going to be just staying on those same ruddy roads that we have developed, on those habitual paths that we've taken. And so we want to open ourselves up to making a commitment to grow our spiritual maturity. That's what we are committing to do, and that's how we live in the kingdom. Growing our spiritual maturity is being aware of this infinite kingdom that is right here at our hand, at our eyes, at our level of every existence that we have. It's right here. Now, before we can make a commitment, before we can actually, and today's topic is having a vision, before we can do either of those, I want to back up a little bit, because unless you have a desire to make a commitment, unless you have a desire to have a vision, you're not going anywhere else. So let's back up for just a minute and look at our desires. I told you before, the definition of a desire is very straightforward. De is of, sire is the Father. So when you have a desire, it is of the Father within. I continue to read The Way of Mastery. It's one of my staples in my library. And The Way of Mastery brings forth the information that all of us kind of know, but sometimes we want to put it off on the side. And that is that we have this human ego self that has desires of its own. And the Way of Mastery says there is always the possibility that desire will be twisted to meet the needs of the egoic mind within you. But rest assured, if it does, who has done it? You. Always within you, you have known that desire is good, but you suppressed it. Those times when desire came forth and you let it become twisted into serving the goals of the ego, you always knew perfectly well what you were doing. You were the decision maker. If you are in right relationship with your Creator, it is absolutely necessary to correct your perception and relationship with the energy of desire. It begins with releasing judgment of it in all of its forms. You can only be in love or fear. You can only be in innocence or judgment. Love and innocence are of the kingdom. Fear and judgment are of illusion. So our desires of the ego are based on fear and judgment. And when we are open and available and willing to see that, we know it. We know when we're doing it. And so what we want to emphasize today in our desires is, what is the desire of the Father within me, of that infinite being within me? Okay? Though our ego can be tricky, because we'll have this desire that comes up from the heart, from within. And what does the ego say? Who do you think you are, that you should be able to do that? Right? How many of you have been watching or been aware of the America's Got Talent? Have you seen the young girl, female ventriloquist that sang? Did you hear the woman who is deaf sing? unbelievable talent. Where did it come from? That came from within. And how many times do you think that their ego said to them, who do you think you are? That you could do that. But what did they do? They forged on. They didn't listen to that limiting ego. They didn't listen to it at all. Because when you listen to the ego, you feel, you know, you are in judgment and you are in fear. Because love is prompting you to move forward. So let's get that straight, first of all. Be aware of your desires, your true desire of your heart. Okay? And be committed to living in the kingdom now. We talked last Sunday about what is commitment. And one of the first things we're having this program that we're presenting later this month in June, a prosperity class, that talks about committing yourself to tithing 10% of your time, your talent, and your treasure to this church. It's a 7-week program. How many of you have heard that ego voice say, you don't have time to do all that study that it says you're supposed to do, 90 minutes a day just for you? When are you going to find time for that? You don't have the money to give 10% of it away to this church. How are you going to pay for everything else? Is that fear? Is that judgment talking? It truly is. You need to recognize that now is the time to let yourself step forward into the fullness of what you are. It is here now. And you don't want to let it go by. Buddha said there is only one time when it is essential to awaken. That time is now. That's the only time we have, is now. Right? So what are your desires? What are your desires of the heart? What it takes is going within, being still, being quiet, because this still small voice, usually, primarily, is rather quiet. It's not forbearing. It doesn't beat you over the head, usually. So we have to take the time to go within and be available to listen to what is my desire, what is the Father wanting to come forth and experience through me this day. How am I going to be this vessel of peace, of love, of truth this day? So we take a deep breath and we ask with this anticipation that it's just going to be grand. Absolutely. Think about the gal that did the evangelicalism. This young woman, I don't know, was she 12 or something like that? She did not move, a muscle. She was better than, what was the gal, Lewis? Sherry Lewis. She was much better than Sherry Lewis. Totally. She had not one movement on her mouth. And she was singing like, ah! Like, how the heck did she do that? And each of us has that same level of talent available in us, and maybe in a totally different arena, but each of us has that level of infinite talent. Parasananda Yogananda said, you must not let your life run in the ordinary way. Do something that nobody else has done, something that will dazzle the world. Each of us can dazzle the world with what our desires are when we move forward, when we anticipate what we want and trust it. And then what we're moving into today is doing our vision. As I said in the thought for the week, where the people perish when they have no vision. You have to be able to move forward in this life. In the program that we're going to be doing, David Owen Ritz, the authors of Keys to the Kingdom, he put it this way. Your deep desire for a truly abundant life is not just a desire to have more. It's a desire to be more. More free, more creative, more whole, more loving, more conscious of your own true spiritual nature. What you really are feeling is the desire of spirit to express itself in a greater way through you and into the world. Don't hold yourself back. Trust it. Let it be. So we're going to be going through this session of visioning. How many of you have ever done visioning in your life? I would say most of you. I would hope, Maybe you wouldn't have called it that. But the formal way that we're going to talk about visioning, there's 5 different areas of our life, primarily. We have our health. We have our finances. These are the play shops of life, right? We have our relationships. We have our career or our creative endeavors, and we have our spiritual and personal growth. And when we are visioning all of those different arenas and all those different areas, what we want to focus on is not necessarily the ultimate what I want to do, but primarily what you want to focus on is the quality that you want to emulate, that you want to bring forth, that you want to experience. The quality, the God quality of being love, of being joy, of being wholeness, of being order. You know what the God qualities are: harmony, peace, abundance, all of those things, unity. So we want to look at your health. What is your health comprised of? Your physical body, your mental, and your emotional. So you have those areas of your body, of your health, that you want to be healthy. How do you look at yourself? When you vision your life the way you want to be, what does it look like? Does it feel like you can move freely? Is it freedom? If I have, an extra baggage that I'm carrying around on my physical form, do I want to shed that so that I can move more easily? That's up to all of us to make that decision for ourselves. So we want to look at each area. Our finances. Your finances, to me, one of the first orders of the universe is, first laws of the universe is order. But look at your finances. Are your finances in order? Do you know what's in your checkbook? Do you write, when you spend money, do you keep track of it? Do you know that you have your bills paid, that you've made these commitments to make certain payments, and are they being paid on time and in integrity? Have you gone through the effort to play the game of tithing, taking 10% of what you get initially off the top and giving it to wherever you're fed spiritually, to acknowledge that God has given me this life, God has given me this abundance, and I am giving it back initially, but virtually, freely, lovingly, joyously. Relationships. What do you think about your relationships? We have relationships with our family, with a spouse or a mate, with our co-workers, with our neighbors. How are those relating to you, and how would you like them to be? If you don't have a current spouse or a current mate, do you want one? What are the qualities that you would like in that person? If so, you better develop them in yourself. Because we are going to mirror what we are to those around us. We're going to draw to us what we are. If you want a friend, if you don't have friends and you want more friends, be a friend to yourself. I am my own best friend. Let's take ourselves out to dinner. Okay, let's do that. So start with yourself, always, and treat yourself the way you would like others to treat you. That is with love. That is with joy. That is with acceptance. How many times have we talked about the fact that we can't change somebody else? But I know better for you. We are all on our own individual path. What about your career or your area of creative endeavor? What do you like to do with your energy, with your time? Is it where you want to be, or would you like to learn how to be a ventriloquist? Would you like to learn how to play the piano finally, or do something that your heart has told you more than once that wouldn't it be nice, wouldn't it be fun, that in this lifetime I could? What's on your bucket list? It takes honoring it, and then it takes seeing it. What we're talking about now today is our visualizing, to put ourselves in the place where it is happening now, in our mental and emotional and acceptance in our whole being that this is what and who I am. That energy, that level, will magnetize and draw to you a little tidbit here, a little tidbit there. Get the clues, be aware of them. They won't necessarily be a 2x4. They might be subtle. But when you put out there, this is my desire, this is what I'm committed to be doing, let and allow Spirit to support you in it. It will bring you those little nuances, meeting that perfect person. How did I meet that person? I don't know. God knows. So we want to recognize that our lives are infinite. That this ego sense plays a role in our lives. It gives us our identity. It tries to protect us, to keep us small. And we can honor that and say, thank you very much for sharing. I understand where you're coming from. I am stepping forward. I am going through life. Eric Butterworth said, don't go through life. Grow through life. Growing means change. Ding! Growing means letting go of where you have been, what you've done. How many of you got your gardens going? Mine are going, yeah. Yeah. And that little seed that you planted in the soil took a little while, but with water and light, it's sprouting up. My zucchini are about this big now. They have about 4 leaves on them. And I know they're going to get big, and they're going to have this big fruit on them, big, what is it, a vegetable, whatever it is, zucchini come on to them, right? And I better pick them quick, because if I let them go for 2 days, oh my gosh, we'll have a long football going. So recognize that as you grow, you're going to have to let go of what had been in order to receive and experience and be what is to come. Trust your dreams. Don Clark said, dreams always come 1 or 2 sizes too big so you can grow into them. So when that dream comes, don't listen to that little ego self. Go with the flow of that dream. Keep it alive by doing what needs to be done at that moment. Now, I'll have to say, part of this whole process of doing our visioning work, knowing what we want, and stepping forward is the fact that we are all infinite. We come whole, complete, and perfect, right? That's the way we're here. Though we don't utilize and put to work everything that we are at one time. I mean, you think back over your lifetime, how many things have you learned and grown and changed and evolved and realized now versus when you were a child, right? You've grown, evolved. So the question to ask when you're into this visioning process and your little ego says, how are you going to do that? You're going to ask the quality, you're going to say to your God presence, okay, bring to my attention, what is the quality that I need to birth in order to bring this to manifestation? What is the quality that I need to bring forth more in order to have this experience show up in my life. And the quality is perhaps freedom. I want to be blessed with the freedom to be who and what I am, so I'm going to let others be who and what they are. Maybe it's order. What is the quality that I need to become more fully engulfed in and be more fully entrenched in so that I can draw to me this experience? Does that make sense? You know, to be open and receptive, what is the quality? And it's okay because they're all within you. You're not going to go outside anywhere and get it. It's all there. It's just a matter of bringing it forth and letting it show up and encouraging it and nurturing it and expecting it. You know, it's nothing that's beyond what you think you can do. You're infinite. So you have the opportunity this week to take the time to first of all go in, ask what is the desire of my heart? What are the desires that I have that are wanting to come up in my experience? Am I willing to be committed to whatever step comes along that Spirit is showing me? Am I committed to my spiritual maturity? Am I committed to living in the kingdom now, to letting go of this smallness and stepping forth into my wholeness? Are you willing to take the time this week to vision, to go within, to ask, how is it that I'd like to see my life be in my health, in my relationships, in my finances, in my career, in my personal growth? Probably I think it's a better idea to start with personal growth. How do I want to be individually? And then go from there. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening in our lives when we make this commitment to bring this spiritual infinite being into expression. And be aware that your ego will come up and want to be heard. And that's perfectly fine. Be aware of when you are judging and when you are in fear. And how do you meet that? How do you greet that? How do you respond to it? With love. Simply, totally with love. We are on a journey of love. We are on a journey of love that will always, always encourage us, guide us, protect us, serve us as we serve and are guided and are led and are available to have love live through us. Vision what you want. Know that it is yours. And let love be your guide. And so it is. Namaste. So it is.